What is going on, everybody? And at the risk of sounding less humble, welcome to the best 90 minutes of your week. Welcome to Garage Beers Live, episode 233. And we've got a humongous show planned for you tonight. We are going to get in a little bit to a great special guest, man, a familiar voice, a familiar face. Can't wait to bring him in. Jack Corrigan, the former voice on TV of the Cleveland Indians. He's going to come in and join us to talk about baseball. He's the current voice of the Colorado Rockies, but a little homesick, a little touch of home for Jack Corrigan. He's going to come talk to us later in the episode. We're going to get into college football and the madness that was this last college football weekend, including down in Joey's neck of the woods where they carried the goalposts for miles down Broadway in Nashville. I can't wait to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Blue Jackets because we got hockey starting, regular season hockey starting next week. So we're going to get you amped up for that. And, of course, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. But you're joining us here on the OBR streaming network, the Orange and Brown Report. Make sure you are subscribed and tuned in to everything the OBR's got going on, whether it's at theobr.com or whether it's right here on the streaming network. Make sure you are following. Make sure you are subscribing. Everything the OBR has going on, the best Browns coverage, and a little bit of fun with us on Tuesday nights. All week, every week, it's all on the OBR. Also, go follow our show on all the socials at The Garage Beers. If you're not following, just hit the follow button. Just boop, hit the little follow button. Always gives us a little boost. So if you want to stay tuned with everything we got going on, make sure you do that. With you, as always, I'm your host, Michael Keefe. Follow me online at Garage Beers Mike. And joining me are my co-hosts first over on the east side of Cleveland, still hanging out outside. Nice, cool, crisp night out there on the porch. You got to love it out there. It's Chad Meyer. What's up, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can sit out here comfortably in sweats, I'm going to be out here on the porch until I just can't anymore. Hey, boys. Yeah, I'm sitting here on the TV watching FIU and Liberty. I was telling you before the show started, it brings me football joy, watching players that actually give a shit, put forth effort. I don't know. There's no collusion. Right? There's nothing going on except for they just want to win a football game. And I just love it so much. And this was the start. Well, this past weekend, this game is just the continuation of what is it, like 55 straight days of football on TV now?
Yeah.
I mean, they could probably minus another 12 games off of that. But give me all of the football. Yeah. Give me all of the football minus 12 more games. And there we go. Let's go. Let's do this.
All right. So Chad's enjoying a little football out on the porch tonight. Also joining us down in Nashville, Tennessee, where again the scenes were wild on Saturday night. Alabama doesn't just come into Nashville, Tennessee, and get a win. Alabama do that. It's Joey Whalen. What's up, Joe?
Who'd have thought? Could you imagine just being one of just the plastered people on Broadway, and like? Maybe you're just there for like a bachelorette party and you don't know the game's going on and you just see two goalposts that have traveled almost 3 miles just going down Broadway to be thrown into the river. What a wild tradition. Why do they go in the river? Was that a thing?
Is that a tradition? I feel like they don't win enough games at Vanderbilt for me to know that tradition. Is that a tradition at Vanderbilt?
Well, Tennessee did that.
Yeah, Tennessee did that.
Yeah, Tennessee did that.
Yeah, but Tennessee Stadium is on the river.
Yeah.
It literally sits on the river in Knoxville. There's nothing on the river about Vanderbilt.
It's a massive one-up on them, I think.
Oh man!
Also, there's like 30 students and fans that go to that game. So that
move, Vols. Your move.
Yeah.
You better find a lake, bitch.
You're getting crushed by the Vols.
Listen, we could talk about that game a little bit later when we dive into college football. But Joe, as somebody that lives in Nashville, if you've ever been to Nashville, if you've ever been to downtown Broadway, it's just party central. It's
party central.
It's packed wall to wall, especially on a Saturday night. Alabama's in town. Who knows what else they had going on down there that night? Wall to wall people in every bar, Tootsie's and Roberts, and the place is just, and especially at that time of night, it's electric down there. It is electric. Boys, it's like my early cheers of the week.
Yeah.
These dudes, these men and women, these students of Vanderbilt, again, I want to make sure this is very clear because, Joe, you hit on it. Vanderbilt upsets Alabama. They storm the field. They take the goalpost down. They remove them from the stadium.
Yeah.
They walk out with the goalposts. Full ass.
Police escorted.
What's that?
Police escorted all the way
police escorted, right? This wasn't like they weren't breaking the law. But then they marched them down Broadway. And again, it's 3 miles.
Hilly.
It's
not flat.
It's the equivalent of taking like the goalpost from Brown Stadium and like,
which would never happen.
No, they have to win games.
Right.
I don't know, throwing them at like an elephant at the zoo. That's the equivalent of the like
crazy
that they took these things. Walked them all the way down Broadway and then just chucked them into the river.
Best part is
excellent.
You're already at the party when you throw them in the river. You just turn around, go to the next bar you see, and grab some beers. It's a great situation.
I'm just picturing them like tossing the goalpost in the river, then just kind of being like, let's go get a beer.
No, that's just, it makes me laugh because there's like Vanderbilt's such a cool area up there. Joey's College is right next to Vanderbilt. Belmont was right up there. But there's some parts of that walk where it's just kind of boring. Like it's just kind of a boring part of that walk.
Yeah.
Just like
surely the energy comes down a little bit at some point, right?
Probably a full 1 hour of that walk where they're just like, oh God, why are we doing this?
We there yet? We there? Man. I thought we'd be at the river by now.
It's not like you could just put them down.
No. Well,
no, you just, you know what, guys?
You could.
Let's forget about this. And you just set them where?
You know, there's a pond in the quad on campus, right?
It was a cool weekend. A cool weekend in college football. Again, we're going to get to that because it felt like if you were a top 10 team, you were in trouble this last weekend as most of them fell. We'll get into the Buckeyes, obviously. We'll get into the Jackets, obviously. And again, in just a little bit, we're going to get into playoff baseball with a really, really familiar face in Jack Corrigan. But we're going to start with the Browns. And before we do the Browns, guys, we have to start with our Garage Beers of the Week because I can't talk about this Browns team without drinking right now. So let's get into our Garage Beers of the Week where we're going to send it around and just talk about what we are drinking. You guys get into the comments. Let us know what you're drinking if you're joining us live here tonight. And Joey, why don't you lead us off? Because I don't know if you're like on the horse yet or not, or if we're just doing lime waters.
No. We're back on the lemon water, but I did add ice this time.
Dude, ice water
on the rocks.
So lemon ice on the rocks, baby. I mean,
let's go.
I'm proud of you.
It's great.
I'm proud of you for being responsible for, just a quick hospitalization. You're like, maybe I should not drink for a minute.
Yeah, well, the drinking wasn't the issue, but what I have to do now, I have to stop drinking for a little while. And then I can start back up in about 4 weeks. So
we're gonna have, oh my God, what a party that show is gonna be.
Yeah.
I might do a little Taco Tuesday before and slam a pitcher of Margs. It'd be great.
Shots on that show.
Yeah, it'll be huge.
Chad, what are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, go figure. Like the first year it starts a 12-team playoff is the year the most chaos ensues in college football.
Oh yes,
but, like the usual suspects are still going to be in the playoff, but still the most upsets we've seen. But go boys, what I'm drinking is real American beer, babe. I saw it. I just wanted to try it. I just wanted to try it. I got a bunch of shit from it for it, but you know what? I just had to. All right, I just had to. And basically, this tastes like they poured Stroh's out of the can and put it into this can. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just a smooth little light beer, and here we are. I mean, I could drink about 12 of these right now with what we're about to get into. But yeah, real American beer. Here we are.
Yeah, now you have to talk like Hulk Hogan the whole time.
Oh, well, let me tell you something, brother. This beer right here, I threw it and I hit a woman in the eye. I called her a wuss, but you know what? We settled it and we're out of court now and we're here.
Oh,
I used my 24-inch pythons to throw a fastball right at her forehead.
I love it. All right, so those are your guys' beer. We've got some people in the comments. Gregory's having Keystone and Jaeger. All right. A little
together
combo, like kind of a Boilermaker, maybe. All right, take that. Son of Aragorn. Sorry, God, I don't know my stuff. Having a Corona, just a nice Corona. I think he said he's in Houston. He or she.
Nice. Okay.
Down in Houston, can't go wrong with a Corona down there in Texas. And listen, you don't have to drink beer here. A large cup of Dr. Pepper from Mr. Hero. God, I love a Roman burger.
Let's go Skrills.
I love a Roman burger. I love a Roman burger. So Mr. Hero.
So long since I've had one of those. Ugh. So
Downing
good.
an 805 tonight. Yeah, go on there, Ray. Look at everybody.
Wow. Let's go.
Guru's got a Lagunitas. I can't keep up. Chris is drinking an MGD. Shout out to all you guys for bringing your beers, hanging out with us, and drinking some beers. Again, put them in the comments. We'll flash them up on the screen. I'm back, boys. Thank God. Because I almost threw up last week because of the sickness. So no beer last week, but we're back. And it's pumpkin season, baby. And I'm back in, and I've got one of my favorites from Akron, from the Akron area, Hoppin' Frog Brewing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It stinks, but
man, your influencer light. You need better placement on the influencer light.
Hey, why don't you
suck a butt?
Shut up. Why don't you
suck a butt?
This is
one of those. I should set that up.
Frog's Hollow Double Pumpkin Ale, and hell yes.
All right.
It's always Hoppin' Frog down there in Akron always has some of the best seasonal beers.
Yep.
It's kind of a lighter one, but the flavor is huge and it's delightful. So I'm living in my pumpkin dreams here tonight.
Yummy.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Shout out. Thank you. Gregory H says, glad to see you feeling better today, Mike. Yeah, I do feel much better. So thank you for that. Sorry about last week, because I know I was shit last week.
You're fine.
Come on.
He's fine.
I know. I was faking it the whole time. All right. So those are our garage beers of the week. Keep putting yours in the comments. Or if you're listening to us later, remember, if you can't catch us live, you can always catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can catch us on YouTube or Twitch. So if you don't catch us live, but you still want to let us know what your favorite beer is right now, get over to the socials at the Garage Beers and let us know. But boys, let's get into this. And for the next 18 minutes or so, let's get this shit over with. And let's talk about the Cleveland freaking Browns, because let's set the stage. Let's set the stage. Cleveland Browns go and get absolutely dominated by the Washington Commanders and their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. And man, my prediction last week couldn't have been more wrong, because I thought, man, they're going to come out and play with a little pride, and they're going to make the rookie quarterback look like a rookie. And all they did was make him look like the rookie of the year, is what they made him look like. Jaden Daniels and the rest of the Commanders dominated. Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback in the NFL at this point. There is no getting around that. The offensive line is pitiful. The defense plays really well until the offense gives them nothing, and then it's just kind of like, all right, well, fuck it. And the Cleveland Browns are just a raging pile of shit, boys. So you know what I want to do? I think what we've done, and Chad, I know you want to get into it, but I think what we've done here in Cleveland is we've spent so much time talking about it's this person's fault or that group's fault or this guy's fault or that guy's fault. Here's what I want to do. Let's just talk about how it's everybody's fault. And let's just go group by group and talk about why this shit is their fault, because it's everybody's fault. This shit is everybody's fault. And right now, I don't remember, maybe it was Dan Orlovsky I saw say it on ESPN. The Cleveland Browns are currently the worst situation of any sports team. That's where we're at.
Yep.
Welcome to it.
Yep.
So, Chad, I know you wanted to get moving, so why don't you just lead us off, man?
Oh, God, there's just so much I want to touch on. First off, Liberty is up 17-10 in the third.
Thank God you're touching on that.
So, I cannot deal with this anymore. Listen, I know there's injuries. Like, I know there's injuries, and I know there's all the excuses in the world you can make for this football team right now. I'm just out of them. I'm out of them for this team. I want to find some shred of positivity, and I just can't. Like, Mike, I am done. I am done. It is week 6 now, right? It's week 6, week 5. I don't know. I don't give a shit. I am done. Right? The defense played with a lot of effort and a lot of energy, right? But when they realized that they don't have any margin for error at all, you could see it. You could see the energy. You could see the effort just draining out of this team, because the offense sucks a whole fucking butt. And I hate them right now. I can stand. Listen, I can stand losing. I'm a Browns fan. I've lost for the last 25, the majority of the last 25 years. But what I can't stand, is effort. Is no effort. And right now, what you're getting from your offense is lackadaisical, lazy bullshit. You're getting amateur penalties, procedural penalties, not being able to line up, not being able to get the right amount of people on the field. You've got your quarterback just walking away from the huddle, not even trying to get right personnel on the field, not even trying to push people off, not even trying to. Who's the quarterback, the franchise quarterback, who is supposed to be your leader of this team, not leading. You have no veterans out there on that offense, too. That is leading, and it is leading to like anger. It is leading to condescension from players towards fans, towards not even towards each other. What's going on behind the scenes there? Who's pulling the strings? Because nobody fucking knows. There have been multiple reports out now that nobody fucking knows what is going on in this organization, especially on the offensive side of the football. And I feel bad for guys like Myles Garrett. I feel bad for guys like Denzel Ward, the guys who are clearly there and playing and playing football and doing what they're supposed to do. But they're not the type of guys to step up in that role. What is going on? I think that's the main thing. The main thing that I am just so pissed off about is there's literally no end in sight to this. I've got more to say. I'll let you guys go. I've got more to say, but yeah.
Again, we're limiting ourselves. Jack Corrigan's here at 9:30, so we're limiting ourselves to 13 minutes on the topic. I do want to shout out Chocolate Bear in the comments, who said, referring to Chad here, dude went 17-0 in the schedule game.
Yeah.
And Chad still has him going 12-0 down the stretch. Like,
listen, we're on pace for 13-4 right now.
Yes, we are.
We're on pace for 13-4. Yeah, Chocolate Bear. I hope you don't think I'm serious about that.
No, listen. Let's start and just go down the line, and we'll make it kind of quick hitters. But let's start with the guy that we all need to talk about, and that's you have the worst quarterback in football. If you want to disagree with that, you can blow it out your ass.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Think of it this way. If the Cleveland Browns called every team in football right now, forget about the contract. Forget about if they said, we will eat the contract. We just want you to take him. Who's going to say yes to it? Who's saying yes to that? What team in the NFL, if the Browns say, hey, listen, we'll eat his contract, you just take him, what team's saying yes?
On a series, like taking him seriously? No. The only reason I say that is because I saw a situation online today where they could get out of Deshaun's contracts and for picks and trades or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna. I saw some idiot on ESPN floated that and said, oh, well, if the Browns are really serious about getting rid of Deshaun, they'll package multiple first rounders.
Right.
You don't honestly think the Browns are going to do that?
No.
They've already mortgaged the draft to get the dude. They're not going to mortgage it again to get rid of him.
Right. No, I know. I'm just saying there's got to be a way. But no, seriously, no team is gonna take that.
Nobody's taking him. He is a shell. We've talked for 3 years now. We've talked about this guy saying, if he can just get back to like 70% of what he was in Houston, this dude is 6% of what he was in Houston. Think of everything that you're watching with this guy. He is slow as molasses.
Yep.
Underrated part of this whole thing was, remember in Houston when he was so hard to tackle because he would get out of things? He's still pretty good at getting out of tackles, but he can't outrun anybody anymore.
Right.
He is getting run down by defensive tackles. He can't run. He can't throw. He's got the Amari Cooper. They said it today. Amari Cooper has had more inaccurate, uncatchable balls thrown towards him than anybody in the league since 2011.
Wow.
It is He is mentally gone. He is physically not the same. He is the worst quarterback in the NFL. And we can talk about all the other, and again, we are going to hit on the other things around him. But if you're going to use, his offensive line isn't great as an excuse, you're missing the boat.
No.
I posed this question on Twitter, guys, and I want to hear your reaction. Deshaun Watson's been sacked 26 times to start this year. It's the most in the league. I don't say this because I think they should have kept Joe Flacco. I was saying they shouldn't have kept Joe Flacco, and because I knew what it would have led to. Now, granted, maybe now it would have just been play Joe Flacco, and that'd have been nice. But if Joe Flacco was the quarterback of the Browns, how many sacks would they have given up at this point?
You cut it in half.
I would say half.
You cut that in half. Because Joe Flacco, and why? Because Joe Flacco, even if he throws a pick, he gets to the top of his drop and he lets the football go.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't hold on to the football.
It is what you need. We're finding out more and more. It's what you need in a Kevin Stefanski offense. All of these guys, we've talked about how Kevin Stefanski has made a lot of quarterbacks look good. It's always been quarterbacks that understand drop, get the ball out of your hand. That is a Kevin Stefanski offense staple, and Deshaun has no idea how to do it.
His timing is just so horrible. There was a route on Sunday where Amari Cooper was running a streak, and he was probably like 40, 50 yards down the field before Watson even thought about it. Like, he was staring him down the whole way, eyes locked on him. You knew he was going there. Waited till Amari was like maybe at the 20 to throw it, and completely uncatchable by the time it gets to him. Like, there's no anticipation in his throws. When he does get out of a situation and he's scrambling, like, he makes the wrong read every time. It's unbearable.
Yeah. And oh God. And I just, and this is the other part I kind of wanted to get to, if I could just go on another quick rant.
Go ahead.
If what we're hearing now is that reports of this giant power struggle when it came to who wanted to bring Deshaun in, whether Kevin has the power to play him or not, or whether Kevin has the power to bench him and play Jameis Winston, or whether it was Andrew who wanted to bring him in, or Haslam's pushed him in, who knows? Because the reports are conflicting now. But if that is true, everything we thought about this front office and this head coach and this ownership being in lockstep is a lie. It's an absolute lie. Right? You brought this guy in. You knew what you were getting into. You knew the PR nightmare that this was going to be. And the one thing that could have made it go all away was win. And now that you're not, and now that it's been a bunch of bullshit over the last 3 years, you mean to tell me that you're just going to stick with him? No. If I'm Kevin, honestly, I'm going in and forcing them to give me the power over my football team, to let football people make the football decisions, or fire me, because because obviously look at what happened last year. Again, I'm not saying they should have kept Joe Flacco, but it worked. But everything but Deshaun Watson worked last year with Kevin Stefanski, and for whatever reason, they felt like they had to tinker with it because, well, not for whatever reason. I know it's a $230 million contract. They felt like they had to tinker with it because they had felt like they had to cater the offense to Deshaun Watson. And that's not working either, because he's a shell of his former self. People make bad decisions, business decisions, all the time in life. It's time to own up to those mistakes, cut your losses, and play Jameis. Or let Kevin play Jameis, or let Kevin take over this football team, or whoever. But just something's got to happen so we can find out whose fault this is and start over, because this is bullshit.
The shitty thing about the whole situation, boys, is you want to just say, let's just make the easy move and go. But like, there's no escaping this right now. That's the issue. There's no escaping this. This guy still has years left here, and we're stuck with him. And there's so much at play where you want to just be like, bench him and put in Jameis. And yeah, I don't know. I saw somebody saying it. Maybe it's not the worst. Maybe it's not the worst idea. Maybe he needs a little humbling in his life, where you're not out because you're hurt. You're not up because you're suspended. Although of all the people, why does this guy need humbling? Of all the stuff he's brought on himself, but you're not going to sit because you're hurt. You're not going to sit because you're suspended. You're not going to sit because you've done something stupid off the field. Maybe they sit him because he's bad. Maybe that's something that helps something click. Maybe it's like the equivalent. I hate to throw another name into the mix with Deshaun Watson because I'm not comparing this person with Deshaun Watson at all. But maybe it's like the Cliff Lee situation. Remember back in the day, Cliff Lee in 2007 got sent to the minors because he sucked real bad.
Yeah.
And in 2008, he won the Cy Young Award. So I'm not saying I don't see any way Deshaun Watson bounces back and becomes a good quarterback in this league.
No,
God, maybe just getting benched because he sucks. Maybe Kevin Stefanski going, yeah, we can't win with you.
Yeah.
And having that conversation with him, maybe that does something to him mentally. But like right now, there's nothing there.
You got to do something. I mean, you're one game away. You're already pretty close, but you're already one game away, I think, from the season being lost. And
just
you got to do something. Something.
Right now, I'm rooting for 1-16. I just want this mark to be on the Cleveland Browns, like the Cleveland sports history again. I want this mark to be on the worst turnaround, 1 year turnaround in NFL history, because all of this, you have the audacity to not even try to salvage this season. The guy is done. And you talked about humbled. I would love for something to humble him, Mike, but his contract is fully guaranteed. There's nothing you can do to humble this guy. Even if you sit him, he's just going to laugh all the way to the bank. I hate this football team, and having this revelation I had today makes me hate them with every fiber of my being. And it's things like this that make me wish that we were not on a network that covers the Browns so hard, because I don't want to watch them anymore. But I have to. I have to. I don't want to watch this product, this bullshit product that they're putting on the field. But I have to.
Well, I do want to watch some of them. I want to watch JOK. I want to watch Myles Garrett.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
In a couple weeks, hopefully.
Maybe
I'll just tell the wife, let me know when they're on defense. Let me know when the Browns are on defense,
well,
and I'll just walk away on offense.
Beef and Chubb, and God, he's just the problem is there's so many guys to like on this team. It's the same damn team as last year, and last year was an all-time likable team.
But he makes it unlikable.
All of them.
He makes all of it unlikable.
All right, listen, we've only got a few minutes before our special guest gets here, and then we're switching gears. We're talking baseball because, God damn it, that's what we're doing. But the Browns are playing the Eagles in Philly this week. If you're just tuning into what's going on with the Eagles, off the bye week, they got smoked by Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers going into the bye. They had the bye this last week. They're coming off the bye, and they're getting all their players back. A.J. Brown's back.
Great for fans.
Dane Johnson's back. They're all back. So Browns, Eagles, we always like to give our predictions. So, hey, Joe, what do you think is going to happen in Philly for the Browns and the Eagles on Sunday?
Well, Guru said it best a while ago in the chat. He said defense can't do anything when they're playing over half the game on the field. To a point, you can't fault the defense for the amount of points they're giving up. Obviously, there's things they can tighten up. I think they know that.
Yeah.
But in reality, when you're getting off a long 10-play drive and then your offense is a 3-and-out, and then you get off a long 8-play drive and then your offense is 3-and-out, I get tired too. I'd be tired. I'd be reaching for that oxygen mask. I think it's going to be kind of similar. Dare I say 42-10?
Oh, God. All right, Chad?
The Eagles are having a lot of problems of their own this year. I mean, I know a lot of it's due to injuries, but there's a lot of dissension in that locker room, especially between quarterback and coach. 17-13 Eagles.
Ooh, that would at least maybe be a fun game.
Yeah.
I like this prediction from Pepe Silvia in the comments. Says the Guardians are going to score more tomorrow than the Browns are going to score next Sunday.
Love it.
That'd be amazing.
It's very realistic. It's overly realistic. Yeah. Listen, I got it's the Browns are going to lose. It doesn't matter what the score is. I don't think the Eagles are great, but I think they're also pissed. off the bye week. Give me 31-9. And again, until the Browns show any signs of life, I'm not picking them. So, all right, we're going to get off the Browns because I see we've got a special guest in the background. And if you're ready for a blast from the past, I'm so excited for this.
Let's go.
I'm so excited for this. This man that we are about to bring in was a sports mainstay in Cleveland from the 80s all the way until the early 2000s, where he was most known for being the TV voice of the Cleveland Indians, especially during that magical run, but also during the 80s, that's a time. And he also did a little work with the Cavs. He worked all over. This man was synonymous with sports broadcasting in Cleveland, and he went off in 2002 and became the radio voice of the Colorado Rockies, where he still is to this day, but a Cleveland guy still through and through. And I'm ready to bring him in right now. Let's bring him in. It's Jack Corrigan. Jack, welcome to the Garage Beers podcast.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I wish I had a Colorado beer, but we had a Mexican night, so it's just a Corona. But if that'll do, right?
Never just a Corona.
Any drinks are welcome here, Jack.
Oh, the voice. Just hearing the voice, Jack Corrigan, brings us back, especially those of us that are old enough to,
Yeah.
Well, if you're old enough, imagine where I am,
Well, no, it's you and I got to be about the same age, so it's amazing what you've done with your life, and I'm just here in my basement doing a podcast.
Whatever is fun, I mean, as my wife of 47 years has told me, you're the luckiest guy in the world for two reasons. One, because I married her, and she's absolutely right.
Right.
And then the second reason is that I've never worked a day in my life. I've been going to ball games for more than 40 years. Can't beat that.
Oh, man.
So, Jack, listen, let's throw it back a little bit, because we do want to talk a little bit about baseball this year and your impressions of the playoffs. And, I would imagine you're a guy that grew up in Cleveland. So I'd imagine, even though you are a Rockies guy through and through now, because 22 years in the books out there with Colorado, but I imagine you still have your soft spot for your teams here in Cleveland. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. My family would tell you that, when I have the computer up, Cleveland.com is there. I still stay in touch with Hammy, Tom Hamilton. We text back and forth, and I was thrilled to see that Hammy got nominated for the Ford Frick Award. He does a great job. It's nice to maintain that connection. Rosie's a good guy too. We have fun at spring training when we interact, and heck, now with the balanced schedule, I mean, I get to see everybody now for sure, at least once a year, either out here in Denver or in Cleveland. So that's a good deal. And especially for me, I have my 6 brothers and sisters and their families still living in Cleveland. So when I come into Progressive Field, I have to pause. I still want to say Jacobs Field,
Yeah.
It still was that when I was doing the games, but I tease our producer, Jesse Thomas. I say, you might, if you put a turnstile up at the doorway to our booth, you could make a lot of money over the 3 games that we play with the Guardians, because everybody comes to visit, which is very humbling in a lot of ways, because, like you said, it's been 22 years since we left Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, for the first time probably in my life, guys, I turned the Browns off on Sunday. It was like, it's hard enough being a Browns fan in Broncos country for all these years.
Oh.
It was tough right now. I still follow the Cavaliers, obviously. And my wife and I, when the Cavs come in, if we can get to the game, we will. Same with the Browns, although because it's a Monday night game in December or late November, whatever it is. She says you can take somebody else that night. So
Now, did
Who
you
knows
catch a
who's gonna
little
be playing
flack
for him
when
at that point?
Yeah, did you catch a little flack when you first moved out there about trying to just kind of ease your way into telling people you're a Browns fan?
No, it was funny, and believe it or not, I actually even said it to John once, and he took it in good spirits. But one day, because Dave Logan, the great Browns receiver, has done the Broncos. We work for the same station. He's done the Broncos for nearly 30 years, might even be 30 years now. And I was filling in on one of our talk shows one day, and John was on. And so I said, John, you can kill me if you want. I said, but the joke in Cleveland was, what's the difference between John Elway and Bugs Bunny? And John looked at me and I said, one has big ears and buck teeth. The other is a cartoon character. And he still talks to me when I cross paths, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and a sigh of relief. He's going to look
Yes.
over you. Whew.
Yeah. Now, John has a pretty good sense of humor.
Man. So let's throw it back for a minute, Jack, because you took over, if I'm not, you took over what, mid-'80s?
1985.
So you started, that was a decent year for the
No.
But was it, that was the year
87 or 86 was better. And so in 87, They were on the cover of the baseball issue of SI. I started in 85. One of the greatest blessings of my life, Joe Tate was my partner. Now, I had crossed paths a lot with Joe because I was doing the Cavs on TV with Nev Chandler, may rest in peace, another legend. Nev and I were doing the Cavs and the old Cleveland Force in 83 and 84. And Nev and I kept doing the Cavaliers for a little while after I started doing the Indians as well. But I got paired with Joe. And to be honest, guys, it was like getting a PhD course in how to be a broadcaster. At that point, I had been in broadcasting 9 years. So, I was the guy who worked his way up through, I began in Youngstown, Ohio, which was a great learning experience, and then went to Richmond, Virginia, same thing, where you get lots. It's like any sport. The more repetitions you get, whether it's doing play-by-play or a talk show or the sports on the news, whatever that might be. And so that was a great base for me. But Joe was so wonderful in terms of how you set up your workspace when you stop and think about it. And he actually did that first for me with basketball. And he said, well, okay, the Cavs bench is over here. So you put Cavs stats to your left. You put the visiting team stats to your right. And if they're shooting for the other basket, meaning if the Cavs were shooting to the basket to your right, flip it so that if a guy made a shot looking at that basket, you could just glance down if you wanted to and know where his, field goal percentage was, free throw percentage, whatever. And then you put notes below that on either side, and then your scorebook. And it was the same way in baseball. And it was amazing because what you're trying to do is make the people feel like everything you're saying is in your head, that you have all that information. And obviously you have a lot. My wife teases me and says, you have more useless information in your brain than anybody. But that's all part of doing this job for a long time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're able to quickly, as a guy, you hits a ball in the gap and it's going to be at least a double, maybe a triple. As they're rounding first base, and for baseball, you put the stats up, on whatever wall, what side of the booth you're on. You put him right next to you. And as he rounds first base, he's going for second. And you've already highlighted who the guys are who are playing. And Okay, Brett Butler, he's got 15 doubles and he's got 3 triples. So as he comes and completes the play either at second base or third base, and with a head first slide, Butler's in there with his 4th triple of the year.
Okay.
And people go, wow, he's got all that information. Every broadcaster does that. It's hot. And the better you set up your workspace, the easier it gets. Hammy's the same way. Jimmy Dunn way all those years with the Browns. You Freddie McLeod, may he rest in peace. Same thing. All those people had an appreciation of how you tell a story. And speaking of that, which is great to sort of get the baseball part of it underway. So we open in 85. The Indians open in 85 in Detroit. It's like 32 degrees. The sun's out, but snow's coming down. Yeah. The Tigers won the World Series in 84.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's Sparky Anderson and Jack Morris and Sweet Lou and Trammell and Kirk Gibson, all those guys. But for me, growing up, and I played a lot of sports, but I knew I wanted to do this probably before I was 10. Jimmy Dudley and Bob Neal, Harry Jones and Mudcat Grant on the TV. And because of how the signal came across the lake, Ernie Harwell doing the Tigers.
Nice.
And next to Vin Scully, if Vin is God, Ernie was the number one saint. He was, and both those gentlemen, just wonderful people. But so it's a day game. We've got all our prep done because there's not as much prep to do because it's the first game of the season. And Joe says, let's go get lunch, in the press dining area. And as we're getting up to go, I said, can we stop in and see Ernie? He goes, yeah, sure. So as you're walking to the press area in dining in Old Tiger Stadium, you go by the booth, and Ernie Harwell's in there with his partner, Paul Carey. And I don't know if your listeners or any of you guys ever heard Paul Carey. Paul Carey's voice started at the edge of his big toenail. He had the voice. He made the guy in the Blue Ridge guys in country, or I can't think of his name now, from the Temptations, Melvin Franklin.
Yeah.
They sounded like sopranos compared to in opera. They call that basso profundo.
Right.
I mean, that's how low his voice was. But so I walk in. I'm 30. Let's see, 80. I'm 32 years old. I walk in. I say, "What an honor to meet you, Mr. Harwell." And he's like, "Please," in that syrupy Southern drawl of his, call me Ernie." And so we talk for a few minutes. And, he says, congratulations on the gig and all that. And I can see Joe's ready to eat, so it's like, come on, we gotta go.
Yep.
And as
Jack, the burgers just came out, Jack. Can we?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Ernie Harwell, whatever, burgers.
Yeah. And as we turned to leave, Ernie reached out and grabbed me by the arm. And he said, young man, can I give you a little information? Yeah, I said, sure, Mr. Harwell. And he says, it's okay for your audience to know they're still selling hot dogs in the 6th inning. And I was like, okay, right. Great. Yeah. And as I'm walking with Joe towards the president, what the hell was he talking? And then it hit me. He said, let the audience know they're selling hot dogs. That means let that hot dog vendor in the stands with all the other crowd noise and everything else help you tell the story. Yeah. You don't need to fill up every second. Sometimes that stuff just heightens the storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you, so here we are, 40 years later practically, and it still resonates in my head, that wonderful voice of Ernie giving me information that every young broadcaster I meet, I tell them the same thing, You don't have to tell them what their OPS when the moon's in its second cycle on a Tuesday evening. Most people don't give a damn.
That's what I had in my head when you said your wife says you have more useless information in your head, because that's a total baseball stat.
Right? Yeah. We do know it. We just have to be smart enough not to use it very often unless it's very timely.
Right.
That's the plan anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then in that, I'll give you one other story. You know, if I'm allowed to dominate the conversation, you're speaking of not letting it breathe. That same year. That was the year 85 that Kansas City went to the World Series, won the World Series over the Cardinals. So it's early June, on our way to a 60-102 season for the Tribe. And we were already 25 games under 500 by the 1st of June. I mean, we rallied in September to get 60 wins. But in Kansas City, you stay in the plaza area, and then Kauffman Stadium, Royal Stadium as it was called at the time, is way out in the middle of nowhere. Arrowhead and the Royal Stadium side by side. And I'm riding out on the second bus. It's Joe and myself, and that night's starting pitcher, Mike Segi, the travel secretary, and Herb Score.
Oh.
And I happened to have Herb sitting next to me, you know, across the aisle. And so this was my first year of, hey, we weren't broadcasting 162 games on TV at that time, but you still had to be involved in every game in order to stay on top of things. And so I said to Herb, I go, you've been doing this for a long time. I said, this is so new to me. I said, we're terrible. How do you do this? How do you do this? And he looked at me and he goes, you know, and Herb, who had that, well, the Tribe, you know, I mean, but and as an aside, the smartest baseball man I ever knew. He would have been the greatest general manager in the world if he wanted to do that, but he was happy doing what he was doing. But Herb says 3 things, and you've probably heard the first 2. He said, 1, something's going to happen in every game that you haven't seen before or that you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And pretty much that holds true. Maybe not every single game, but pretty frequently enough that that's a good rule number 1. Rule number 2 is at least once and more than likely multiple times, something's going to happen in the game, either with the team you're covering or the other team, that's going to make you say, wow. And more often than not, it's the beauty of baseball. I mean, you can, again, be a lousy team, yet, you know, somebody makes a stupendous play or pitches, you know, the bad 1974 Indians when Dick Bosman pitches a no-hitter against the Oakland A's, you know, who won the World Series that fall. But so that was rule number 2. And, you know, okay. And he says, and rule number 3 is, and if, I guess I'm allowed to be kind of this way on a podcast. And Herb,
yes, you are. Let it fly.
And you could be a horseshit team, and you're still going to win 50 to 60 games that year. It's just the way baseball is. And he said, so you go to the game that night and tell yourself this is going to be one of those games. So you're all excited. And he says, and then if you lose, you leave the ballpark and feel even better because you're still going to win the 50 or 60 games. And now your odds have improved by 1 game.
Jack, if I could, unless you're the 20, 23, 24 White Sox.
Yeah.
I want to get to the current baseball playoffs here in a second, Jack, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I mean, you started in 85 and you left in 2001. I mean, you basically grew as a broadcaster, as this team was growing to that dominant, incredible, mid to late 90s teams that we all saw here. I mean, it was no secret. I mean, freaking Manny Ramirez batted 7th in that lineup, for God's sakes.
We're batted 9th.
I know, right? And so I just want to get your thoughts when you look back on those times. Like, what do you fondly remember about those times?
The through 93, so 85 through 93. I don't know the exact number now off the top of my head, but there were at least 3 times, maybe as many as 5 times, we were over 100 losses.
Yeah.
And so obviously that is a challenge. And I really was relying on Herb's advice for much of that. But I think through some of those years in the late 80s and into the early 90s, Joe Carter's a lifelong friend. Pat Tabler's a lifelong friend. Bud Black, I've had the privilege of the last 8 years of working with him every day as the Rockies manager, and he pitched for Cleveland twice in that time period.
Yep.
88 to early 91, I think it was, and then again he was on the 95 team. And so those, we, in a lot of ways, for myself, and I think Hammy started in 90 or 91, so there were a few of those tough years. We all grew with the team. I mean, my first year in 85 was Grover's last year as a player. And Grover was a good player that year. I mean, even in his last year. So when he came back as the manager, it was like, man, this is great. Because again, it was the chance to be with the guys that we all kind of came up together. And as John Hart's plan of signing guys to big deals before maybe it was their time, and most of them worked, a few of them didn't.
Yeah.
Sid Manji is one that comes to mind. But we weren't working because of national TV on the clinch game. When I think it was Tommy caught a foul pop and for the final out that clinched. Against the Orioles that clinched, going back to the playoffs for the first time in 40 plus years. So I didn't get to do the game, unfortunately, but that was great. I would say the highlight game for me was clinching the pennant in the game in Seattle.
Yeah.
Kenny Lofton scoring from second base on a wild pitch. And I remember being in the locker room. I mean, we weren't doing the game because it was national, but Channel 43 had news, so we were sending stories back. And being a rookie at getting to the playoffs, I wasn't smart enough to have a change of clothes. So a 3.5-hour flight back, 4-hour flight back to Cleveland from Seattle in the middle of the night in champagne-drenched clothes.
Soaking wet.
It was
long flight.
But we were all so excited. It didn't make any difference. It was just it was so good. Yeah. I love that.
Hey, right.
Yeah.
Remember their slogan was "Refuse to lose," and then with this.
Yep. Beating Randy Johnson and Griffey and Edgar Martinez. Think about that. They had 3 Hall of Famers on that team, and Jay Buhner and
all I can think about is Paul Wassenmacher.
Yeah, there you go.
Striking them all out.
Yep. And another one that's maybe a little bit different. I remember being in Kansas City when 9/11 happened in 2001. And of course we were all there because nobody knew what was going to happen. So we sat for a day and a half, and my birthday is the next day, the 12th. So there we are in Kansas City. And so they're going to bus us back because all the airports were closed and everything else. And so we had 3 buses so that everybody could have their own row as we drove through the night. So taking a bus ride from Kansas City back to Cleveland, and national regulations or whatever, a long distance bus driver has to stop for 20 minutes, like every 4 hours, just to add to the trip and every 4 hours stops for the 20 minutes. So we stop, and it's probably 11 o'clock, almost midnight, and we're stopped and rest. And there is a McDonald's, and Jim Tomey and Kenny Lofton walked over to the drive-through window because the restaurant itself was not open, but the drive-through still was. And Jimmy goes, "Give me 200 cheeseburgers and 200 large fries." Because we had soft drinks and beer and stuff on the buses, no food. And the person was like, "Well, you can't walk up to a drive-through. You got to have a vehicle." And he points to the buses and he says, "They're not going to fit here in the drive-through. You're going to turn down 200 orders?" And, the kid was probably a high school kid or a college kid, but no, okay. So that we waited an extra 15 minutes for all the burgers to be ready, and we picked up and went there. And I just thought it was such a team bonding moment, and just all part of what makes sports special, and to have a connection to it. You always remind yourself, you're not a player. You're not specifically part of the team. It's their story, but to be able to share the story with them, that's what's really special.
That poor kid. Shout out to whatever McDonald's in Southern Illinois or wherever.
Yeah, it was like Peoria or something. Tomey country.
Oh,
right?
They should have known Tomey then.
Yeah,
200 cheeseburgers in like 15 minutes. That is fantastic.
Yeah, that poor short order cook was like, he wasn't real happy. Yeah,
No,
Yeah, he didn't get a raise for that.
No.
Jack, real quick, a couple quick things. One, just real quick, tell us about the move, because you were a TV guy, and that's what you were here in Cleveland when you were covering the Indians. Is you were at Channel 43, and again, when I look back, because Chad texted me that you had gotten back and said you wanted to come on. I'm like, I'm going to watch old highlights with Jack Corrigan's voice and touch them all time, and just some legendary moments that you had here. But the opportunity came for you to take the radio job in Colorado. So, just tell us that story a little bit about.
Well,
how that popped open.
It's not quite as glorious at its front end. 2 things happened in the early 90s as cable started to develop. Still not anything like it turned out to be. Regional sports networks, which now are all going bankrupt, but at the time just starting to happen. And the Indians wanted Mike Keegan and myself to do all the games, just like Hammy and Herb were doing all the games. And one of the people in management at the time for 43 said, no, they're identified as Channel 43 people. And we tried to say, no, when people go, oh, that's the guy from 43. No, they say that's the guy who does the Indians games on 43. But that was, so they, and good for Archie. I mean, Rick gets hired Manning, and Archie's still doing it. A guy by the name of John Saunders at the time was brought in from Pittsburgh. And when we got to, ironically, as I talked about this, so when 9/11 happened, broadcast advertising cratered. I mean, just it just to say the bottom fell out is an understatement. Well, at that point, it was at least the fourth or fifth ownership group for Channel 43. We were actually owned by a group based out of Alabama. And for them, they looked and said, well, we're spending X amount of dollars to do these baseball games. We'll spend next to nothing to run Hogan's Heroes highlights and make more money. So the contract was up for renewal, and they told the Indians, we're not interested. And so the Indians were able, I think it was Fox Sports Ohio at the time, or Fox,
Yep.
I forget the exact name there, agreed to do, 150 games. Now they do all 162, except if there's a national broadcast. And the Indians said, well, we'd like Jack and Mike to do the games. And the Fox people said, well, we have two people. And John and Rick were fine. They were doing a good job. And the Indians said, well, Mike and Jack have been doing it for a long time. We'd like to have them do it. And they said, well, I'll give you X million dollars or X million reasons why we're going to stay with our two guys. And that was the money they were paying to take on these extra games. So in actuality, I mean, it happened so late after the 2001 season, there were no jobs.
Yeah.
And so I freelanced in 2002. And it was during that 2002 season that the great Jack Buck passed away. And so KMOX in St. Louis did a search, and it came down to Wayne Hagan, who was doing the Rockies at the time here in Denver, and myself. And the radio station wanted to hire me. The Cardinals wanted to hire Wayne because he had been doing National League. The Interleague was still in its infancy. We'd only been doing it for 3 or 4 years at that point. And the station acquiesced to what the Cardinals wanted. And so Wayne got the job, but God bless the people of KMOX. They immediately called KOA, and because the two program directors knew each other, and Tom, I think it was Glissmeyer, something like that, the GM or the program director in St. Louis called Don Martin, the PD in Denver, and right after they announced Wayne getting the job, and God bless Tom, he said, you'd be crazy not to hire this guy. You don't even need to put it out. And it was, they still had to put it out, but in late January, I got the job. And one of the coolest moments, my best friend still is, his daughter was getting married in the summer of 2000. So this is early January of 2003. And so I called George up and I said, hey, George, I can't come to Jen's wedding. And he says, how come? And I said, because I'm going to be in Pittsburgh. And he said, what are you going to be in Pittsburgh for? And then he realized that I had gotten the job. Oh, and the coolest thing he did, I don't know how he found it. He said he went to a bunch of stores because it wouldn't be a real hot item in Cleveland in the winter of 2003, but he found 2 Colorado Rockies baseball caps, one for himself, and doorbell rings at the house, and he's standing there at the door, and he says, hey, if you're going out there, you better dress the part. I still have the hat, still wear it once in a while. And to be honest, St. Louis, with all its tradition, that would have been great. But Denver's such a wonderful place to live. The Rockies, from the moment I got the job, have treated my family as part of the Rockies family. And so it's really been a blessing. Our daughter met her son, met our son-in-law out here, and we have a couple of grandsons now. So, Cleveland's always going to be home for us, but Denver's 1A, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Jack, it's an awesome, it's a sad story the way things worked out in Cleveland, but Our loss was certainly Denver's gain. Real quick before we let you go, Jack, we'd be remiss if we didn't just hit on what's going on in baseball right now, because our Cleveland Guardians, which again I'm sure is a very difficult thing for you to say when you have to say it, just based on all the times you've had to call them the Indians.
I'm a little bit like Hammy. Whenever we play the Guardians, I say Cleveland much more frequently than I say Guardians. And my partner, Jerry Schemmel, and our producer, Jesse Thomas, we have a little pot going for how many times I might say Indians. And this year, when the Indians were in Denver, and the Rockies won the series, by the way, 2 out of 3, Jerry said Indians more than I did. So I won the pot.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Listen, Jack, I don't know that, based on your involvement with the organization for as long as you were around, you know what the organization has been through, the ups and the downs. You've been through the lowest of the lows, and you've been through some pretty amazing highs here in Cleveland. Obviously, you've not been connected with the franchise for 20 years, but here they are having a really great season with a new manager who's probably going to win Manager of the Year in the American League.
Yeah, it'd be a crime if he didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Again, a group of young guys that just feel like they just play the right way night in and night out. And I think you are keenly aware of what it would mean for something to happen in this city that hasn't happened since 1948, which is for that World Series trophy to wind up in Cleveland. It feels like this year they've got as good of a chance as any to make that happen. So just kind of your thoughts on this year's Guardians, what you saw out of them. I know the Rockies took them out 2 out of 3 games, but what you've seen out of them as you've kind of watched from a distance, and what you think their chances are in the playoffs.
Well, anytime the Guardians want to trade us Jose Ramirez, we'd be happy to take him. He is so much fun to watch. The most humble, most underappreciated superstar in the game, and he really, if they used to say Reggie Jackson was the straw that stirred the drink, well, Jose's pulling the glass down, filling it with ice, pouring something into it, then stirring it. He's doing everything. So, based on watching them play through the year, I knew, I thought, and they, still had the chance the other day. Yeah. I thought against Skubal they'd have a challenge because that kid is terrific.
Unreal.
But yeah. I think the key for them, obviously, is you don't want to face them in Game 5. So you got to win. Tomorrow's game is that's the game, in the best of 5s when you get up 2-1. I mean, you always talk about momentum. Heck, they were up on the Cubs. We know that. So
thanks for the reminder, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we get that process. Yeah. But I think, especially if they can win tomorrow with the Tigers probably doing a bullpen game again, I think that's an advantage for the Guardians. And then you're in pretty good shape. I mean, Steven can run Bybee back out there again if he needs to in Game 5. They have better pitching. I'm still trying to figure out at times how the Tigers bullpen does it, because they have the kid who had Brewster who had the save yesterday. I watched him, and the Rockies hit him around in one of the games when we played at Comerica in September. So, but Skubal's pretty darn good. But I think the winner, believe it or not, I think the winner of the Guardians-Tigers series, because the Tigers are the hottest team and the Guardians have been the most consistent team. Yeah. I think the winner of that series has the advantage for the pennant. If it ends up being the Royals, they've seen the Royals enough to know what they need to do. And the pressure on the Yankees right now, just like the pressure on the Dodgers, I think the Padres are going to beat the Dodgers. Again, they're a hot team. They believe in themselves, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, it would be terrific if you had something like Cleveland or Kansas City playing San Diego, and no Dodgers, no Phillies, no Mets, no Yankees. That'd be really good.
Right.
And the MLB would put that game on at 10 a.m. every day.
Like, you mean you think they want Ohtani and Judge? No,
come on.
Not a chance.
Jack, we're going to put the World Series back on WUAB. Would you come to all those games?
The World Series promo is already Ohtani Judge. Series.
Right.
He is, I will tell you, he is a remarkable player when you see him 13 times as we did. And the thing that, and again, because everybody or most of the players nowadays are good size anyway, he is bigger than, people go, oh yeah, Judge and Stanton and Soto being big guys, but Ohtani is put together. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is a remarkable talent for sure.
Now, Jack, I want to ask you one last thing. I mean, I have to know because I'm just a broadcasting nerd in this sense. I mean, and I know you've probably been asked this 100 times, but maybe even more. But I just got to ask about touch 'em all time. Like, was that the first thing that came out of your mouth? Did you cycle through home run calls? Like, how'd you land on that?
It's another interesting story. I grew up on the west side of Cleveland, the West Park neighborhood.
Let's go.
We lived on a cul-de-sac, St. Anthony Lane, and it was like L-shaped. You'd come off of the main street, and you'd go down about 100 yards, and there'd be a big traffic circle. And then out of that circle, about another 100 yards to another traffic circle. So my family was the second family to move in on the street. The first house, still talk to him to this day, Joe Carino, was a year older than me, but he was a huge baseball fan. He was a huge Rocky Colavito fan, obviously. And by that point, this is 1962. Rocky had been traded to the Tigers. So we'd listened to the Tigers games and the Indians games. And since there weren't any other kids around, we played a wiffle ball game where you hit the ball out of your hand and the other guy was in the circle. If you hit it over the curb, it was a home run. We had 2 sewers, a manhole cover, and then we threw a Frisbee down for home plate. And one day I hit a home run and just said, touch 'em all time for Woody Held. And as I circled the bases. And so we played that game till we got into high school. And I forget, it was one of the early games working with Joe. And I had my first home run call. And guy hits a home run and he starts to circle the bases. And I go, touch 'em all time for Brooke Jacoby. And, and he finishes and so the inning comes to an end and we take off our headsets and Joe says that touch 'em all time. That's pretty good. Why don't you keep it?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
40 years later, it's still working.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
If Joe Tate tells you something about broadcasting, you better do
listen. Yeah.
And that man knew a thing about a catchphrase.
Yes, he did.
He knew a thing about a catchphrase. So if he
to the line, to the lane, to the hoop, yeah. Wham with the right hand. Yeah, all those, right? Yeah. Flips, dips, got it. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Hey, Jack, we're gonna let you go, but this was great. What a treat to just hear your voice again. Again, we don't hear it as much as we probably should, just tuning into some Rockies games out there. But a lot of us grew up with your voice. And I know Chad and I and Joey are all part of that group. And just an absolute pleasure to have you on. To hear your voice again just takes me right back to Cleveland Municipal Stadium and to growing up. And that means something. And what you do means something. And it's really appreciated. And we really appreciate having you on and just talking a little baseball with you.
Well, it's great to be remembered. Like I said, Cleveland will always be home for our family as well. And looking forward to we play the Guardians in late July in Cleveland. So it'll be fun to reminisce. If you guys get to come to the games, let me know and we'll chat in person rather than by Zoom, or we'll do this as well.
You know what we'll do? We'll grab a post-game beer with Jack Corrigan after one of those games.
We're going to hold you to that, Jack. We're definitely going to hold you to that.
That sounds fine. With one condition, my producer Jesse Thomas, who knows much more about how to share an adult beverage, I need to have him as my wingman.
Bring it on. Right. The more the merrier.
Good.
The more the merrier. Jesse's invited. Jack,
Yep,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your off season, and good luck with everything moving forward. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was great talking with you, and yeah, we will be rooting for the Guardians. Be nice to end the curse for sure.
Oh, please.
Free up your Sundays. Don't watch any more Browns games, Jack.
All right. See you guys.
We'll see you, Jack.
That's Jack Corrigan, the radio voice of the Colorado Rockies, or as you'll remember, that really iconic voice of Cleveland Indians baseball from the 80s to the early 2000s. Thank you for asking that, by the way, Chad. The origin of Touch 'Em All Time, because the story he gave there was
cool.
Really awesome.
Yeah, right?
Really awesome. That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, sweet.
I love it. All right. So, gosh, it is 10:15 already. Let's do some quick hitter type things, but we got to do assholes of the week. We haven't even done asshole of the week. Everything's been we've been having fun. We've been giving shit to the Browns. We've been having a great time with Jack Corrigan. We haven't done asshole of the week. So now it's time to do our asshole of the week. This is our segment where we just talk about somebody, some people, a group of people that have just been assholes this week. So I'll lead this one off. And my asshole of the week this week are Dodgers fans.
Oh, yeah.
What a group of assholes. That,
They suck.
All right, I got to tell you. There's a lot of fans that get bad raps. You know, here in Cleveland, we think Steelers fans are assholes. And they can be. Obviously, Philadelphia fans get the rap for being like the assholes. There's a lot of fan bases that have I think a lot of Ohio State fans get labeled as assholes among other college football people, whatever. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's West Coast and we are East Coast and whatever. But, man, I think the Dodgers fans are the ultimate assholes. Think of the shit that has happened at that stadium over the course of the years. Think of the people that have been beaten to a pulp over baseball games, to the brink of death or to death. Think of people getting shoved from like one level to another. Just the Dodgers fans are total assholes.
Yeah.
They are complete assholes. And they were on full display the other night in that Padres game in which there was a 20-minute delay in the game because the Dodgers fans couldn't contain themselves from throwing baseballs at players and like hurling shit onto the field.
Jesus.
And like, it didn't surprise me in the slightest, but like asshole behavior, and you deserve to be called out for like, wasn't even like anything really happened. Like the Padres were playing well, so they just decided to be assholes. Asshole behavior, and that the Dodgers fans in general just get my asshole of the week. Terrible. Who wants to go next?
I mean, I'd be remiss if I went on those rants that I did about the Browns earlier and not make the Browns my asshole of the week. So yeah, Browns for all the reasons I just said earlier in the show.
I'm going to get more specific. My A1 asshole, 1A asshole, until proven otherwise, will be Deshaun Watson.
Fair.
Other asshole of the week. I think I did this last week, but it's worse than I thought it was. 308. Sorry, let me do Eastern time. 408, 308. 438. What was game 1? 108 for these ALDS games?
Oh,
Fucking kidding me? What are you doing? Why are you having day games, 3-day games during the week? Thursday's close, but like 2-day games during the week of the ALDS. That is baseball shooting themselves in the foot. The worst marketing sports league out of any sports league in the US. MLS does a better job of marketing than the MLB does. Maybe. They suck. I hate it. It's so dumb. Double stack the games, stagger them a little bit. It's fine. You can have the game start at 6 and 8. Done.
assholery.
Why?
It's assholery.
Total assholery.
Total.
And the thing is, you only have 2 games playing that night.
Yeah. No, run them concurrent.
That's what I don't get. Like the NFL has figured that out this year, right?
Yeah.
They keep running these like 2 Monday night games together. It's amazing.
Yeah. Like one starts at like 7:30, the other starts at like 8:15.
Yes. Oh my God, they need to do this more often. Quit trying to stagger them and put them on at the same time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All I do is sit there with my remote, like flip, flip, flip,
Right.
flip.
Yeah.
And I'm having the time of my life. I don't need them to be staggered. This is great. I don't know why baseballs do. I agree with you, Joe. It's the dumbest. Oh, next game is Wednesday. What time's the game tomorrow?
3.
3 on a Wednesday.
Come on.
In Detroit.
Beautiful.
Come on.
Stupid.
Be a great game to go to, but like 99.99% of the people watching the game will be watching it on TV. And people work.
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks.
There's a
All right,
shitload
those
of
are our
open seats
assholes of the
because
week.
of it too.
What'd you say?
Oh, what?
There's a shitload of open seats because of it too.
Well,
Oh.
hopefully not. But or hopefully in Detroit there are.
Yeah.
Suck it.
Yeah.
All right, those are our assholes of the week. Let us know if somebody's just been an asshole to you this week and put it in the comments and we'll throw it on the screen. But we do have a couple quick hitters we want to get to before we get out of here for episode 233 of Garage Beers. I want to go back to what we started with. I want to go back to last weekend was one of the wildest college football weekends.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Of
I
all
love
time.
college football so much.
All time.
Speaking of which, FIU and Liberty are in overtime right now. Let's go.
Right. So I have to go. We got to start with Ohio State because we do cover the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I got to start with Ohio State, and I got to say this. One of my assholes of the week should be whoever the writer is. Maybe it was ESPN.com.
Yeah, ESPN. Yep.
Was it ESPN.com?
Yep.
That they were talking about the tough time week 1 teams had, and then they got to the Ohio State recap. And remember, Ohio State beat Iowa 35-7.
Yeah.
And they said in the recap something to the effect of, while Ohio State did win 35-7, the fact that they only had this many points after 1 quarter has to just feel like a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What?
Right. It's very dumb. Yeah.
Is this your first time watching a game of any sort?
Of any sport?
Ever?
It had to have been. It had to have been.
Especially an Ohio State game. I panic about that game every year.
Right.
I panic about that game every year.
Yeah. It's a good Iowa team.
Ohio State went in and beat them 35-7.
Yeah.
And some idiot was like, it had to feel like a loss for the Buckeyes. No, it did not.
Yeah.
Nope. It didn't feel. Nope. Just real quick to whoever that writer is, because I'm sure they're in the audience tonight. It did not feel like a loss.
No.
It felt like the opposite of a loss,
Right.
which is a win. That's what it felt like. It felt like a win.
And then right under that, you put Georgia, like, oh, Georgia had a nice bounce back. And like there was the SEC bias that everybody complains about with ESPN.
Yeah.
But what validated it was Joel Klatt. Remember, did you see Joel Klatt? He goes, they don't even try to hide it. He quote tweeted, he said, they don't even try to hide it.
Oh, it's so weird.
And when you call them out on it, you're an SEC hater.
Right. Weird.
Yeah.
Oddball behavior. But, boys, again, I think there's still more to prove with Will Howard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, he was 21 of 25 in the game. He threw for 209 yards. He threw for 4 touchdowns. But there's going to come a game, and it might be this week, where Will Howard has to help carry the team as opposed to just be like a game manager kind of player.
Sure.
But man, Ohio State ran for 200 yards in this game against Iowa. That's a feat, man.
Yeah.
To do that against a good Iowa defense,
right?
It's a feat. And boys, between Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka, it's the best 1-2 punch in college football receiving. It's unbelievable.
Unreal talent.
Smith is 4 catches, 89 yards, another one-hander, another touchdown. But like quietly in the background, here's Emeka Ibuka, 9 catches, like 80 yards, 3 touchdowns. These guys are so good. They're so good.
100%. And that's what makes you think like, what, like, yes, Will Howard, like he's going to need, at some point, he's going to need to win a game for this team, but he just has to be good enough. He doesn't even have to be great. He just has to be good enough. He has to get the ball to these guys in space. And that's what he does. It's what he does because they're always open. Jeremiah Smith, even if he's triple teamed, he's always open. he's always open.
So the funny thing about the Ohio State Iowa game is it was like the boring game of the weekend. It was the boring game of the weekend because when you go to the top 10, obviously, so here's the teams in the top 10 going into the week. Ohio State won 35-7. They were ranked third. Penn State won 27-11 over UCLA. UCLA stinks. Georgia won over Auburn 31-13. But then number 1, Alabama loses on the road to Vanderbilt. Wild.
Historic.
I mean, dude, what was all right? Let's talk for a minute, Joe.
Yeah.
You live in Nashville, and you're a little bit outside the town, and you're not a Vanderbilt guy by any stretch of the imagination. But what was the vibe of the town like last weekend?
It's so funny because like it's so polarizing with the SEC schools down here. Like everyone is just hard for one team. I'm obviously are like same with Ohio State, but it's much more of a mix down here.
Tennessee's got to be bigger than Vandy, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
by probably like 80,000 people. Vandy's not massive.
No. I don't mean the size of the school, you jackass. I just mean like the number of fans.
Oh, the fans?
Yeah.
Guess how many Vandy fans I've ever met? I've been down here since 2012. 12 years. So no, I've not met a single Vandy football fan my entire time down here. And I've met a lot of people down here, so that's kind of crazy. I don't know if they have like a fan base. Like their games are never sold out. I don't know. I mean, that one probably had, 75% Bama fans, 25% Vandy fans at that game.
Or drive from Bama.
No, it's like a 2-hour drive. Like it's real quick.
Yeah.
But everyone just loves the shit on the SEC team that's not theirs, and all the Georgia, all the Tennessee fans, everyone just buzzing for this game. It was really cool to see. I wish I saw the goalposts going down Broadway. That would have been an absolute sight. But the town was buzzing, man. I mean, nobody's a Vandy fan, but like people were stoked.
So we got Bama falling to Vandy, which is just, I mean, immediately, it's my favorite thing about the game. Immediately, the Bama fans are like, get DeBoer out of here. Like immediately. The guy loses one game, but it's because and super shout out to the people that work at Vandy for playing the Nick Saban quote. And the minute the game ended,
yes. They had that ready.
At the stadium, they played the Nick Saban quote that said, everywhere in the SEC is a tough place to play, except for Vandy.
Yeah.
Immediately played it. Oh, iconic troll.
They had that ready. Ultimate troll. That
was a great troll.
Iconic. Vandy deserves. I don't even know who they're playing this week, but they're probably going to get boat raced this week. But they deserve this week of glory. And they did it well between even the goalposts and between Troll and Alabama. They just did it well. So Alabama, the number 1 team in the country, falls. Texas has a bye week, so we don't worry about Texas. And then you've got this Arkansas, Tennessee. Tennessee was kind of, I'm going to keep it in your state there, Joe. Tennessee's kind of been the darling of a lot of people this year. They've got this new quarterback that everybody's really excited about, and everybody really loves on these Tennessee Volunteers. Well, what did the Tennessee Volunteers do? They went to Arkansas and they got beat 19-14 against the Razorbacks. That's not a great Arkansas team. And it's a good Arkansas defense. It's a really bad Arkansas offense.
Right.
And Vandy lost. So the number 1 team in the country loses. The number 4 team in the country loses. The SEC is beating up on each other.
Yeah.
They're beating up.
Those NIL deals are really swaying the strengths of these top-ended schools, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, first off, if you're Vandy, ride that high. Who cares? You go 3-8 for the for your season. You're gonna ride that high.
Decent Vandy team though. Who's their other team they beat early this year that was pretty solid?
I don't.
It was.
Don't have that in front of me.
Vandy won another game this year.
They did.
No.
They're 3-2.
They're 3-2.
Yeah.
Oh, they played Georgia close. That was it.
No,
they played Georgia close,
and they beat Virginia. And they beat Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
they haven't played Georgia.
So there you go.
What the hell am I looking at?
They lost to Georgia State.
Yeah,
but they did beat Virginia Tech.
Oh no, it's just last year's game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, I think you're going to start to see these. Like, I think I've talked about this before. I think you're going to start to see more of these. I guess mid schools in conferences get a lot better because of this NIL deal, right? I mean, it's you. Of course, all the premier guys are going to go to the premier programs, right? But then but that leaves all of the blue collar, hardworking guys, maybe guys who felt rejected by some NIL deals, who didn't get the money that they wanted to. They're going to go where the money is. Like look at UNLV right now. UNLV ranked 25th in the nation before they lost to Syracuse, right? They were 4-1, but they almost beat Syracuse. Like, and it's going to be other schools like that. Arizona State almost lost to a Sun Belt conference team, Texas State. Yeah. Like you're going to start seeing that more and more. And I mean, here, look at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beats Alabama. That's unheard of. I think the chaos is going to just grow from here in college football, which is going to make me love it even more. Cal almost beating Miami.
So I was going to say 2 more teams in the top 10 lost. The number 10 team in the country was the Michigan Wolverines.
Right.
And they lose the national championship rematch to the Washington, not a good Washington team, by the way.
The skeleton.
But finally, Michigan's inability offensively to do anything other than run the ball.
Right.
Finally came back and bit him in the ass. The Washington Huskies get revenge on the Michigan Wolverines for the national championship from last year. And the Huskies get a huge initial season Big Ten win. That's a big win for them.
That's a big win for them. And dudes, like this, there's at least 3 more losses on this Michigan Michigan schedule. Even before they get to Ohio State. I mean, they have a bye week this week. Then they're at number 23 Illinois, home to Michigan State, home to Oregon, at Bloomington, Indiana, against number 18 Indiana. Like, that's a much
Indiana. Go back to Indiana's coach's press conference.
Yeah.
Do you remember his press conference?
Yep.
What's his name? I always forget his name. Look up his name.
Jim Schmilstein.
Yeah, Jimmy Schmilstein.
Kurt Signetti.
Oh yeah. James Madison, the James Madison guy, the AMU guy.
And I love in his press conference. He goes, "I win. Look me up." Oh, fuck yeah. And then he starts 6-0 and he has Indiana ranked 18th in the country.
It's incredible.
Oh my God. He's my new favorite human.
Yeah.
Favorite human.
Ohio State's got them the week before Michigan. So
it's going to be a great game.
That'll be probably a harder game than the Michigan game.
Yeah, they're going to blow their doors off. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the last number 10 team to lose, because the number 25 seed going into the game, the Texas A&M Aggies boat raced the Mizzou Tigers.
Oh, yeah.
Boat raced them. Game was over at halftime. Put it away. I think it was 31-14 4 at halftime.
It was a lot too little. It was 41-10.
Yeah, well, wow. And it was 31-7 or something at halftime. Like it was over.
Yeah.
In the first half. And I love the Aggies went from 25 to 15 in the rain. Like just okay, you're way better than
fine. Go up there.
But you know what's interesting is with these, normally I wouldn't get too excited. And I'm an Aggie. It's my alma mater. I love them. Normally I wouldn't get too excited. But with the conference expansions, like a team like A&M, their path to the SEC championship game is pretty wide open because the fact that they don't play the certain schedule anymore. Like Alabama's not on the schedule this year for them. Like when you look at their schedule going into the rest of the year, it's tough. It's an SEC schedule, but like every game is winnable.
Do they just go by conference record then for the championship game?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah.
And guys, it's like, oh man, I'm so excited. Can we look ahead for a minute? Because honestly, this Saturday is the Saturday I've been looking forward to. This Saturday, there's no reason to get off your couch this Saturday.
I mean, you got the Red River rivalry.
You've got South Carolina at Alabama. You've got Penn State at USC. You've got
talking about South Carolina at Alabama.
Well, because I don't know, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. South Carolina can beat them.
Carolina's going to lose by 140 points.
Yeah, you've got the world's largest cocktail party, Florida at Tennessee. You got Ohio State and Oregon. You've got Ole Miss and LSU. Hell,
what did you just say?
What?
The world's largest cocktail party, Florida and Tennessee.
Wait, that's Georgia and Florida. My bad.
Yeah,
that's Georgia and Florida.
Whoa.
My bad.
You got LSU and Ole Miss.
Ohio State and Oregon, LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, hell, even the late night game. You've got Kansas State at Colorado. That's going to be a good one too.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, for fuck's sake, guys. There's no reason to get off your couch.
Penn State and USC. There's a lot of good games. But the premier game of the weekend, and let's talk about this, boys, before we get off of college football.
Sure.
The premier game of the weekend. Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Eugene, fucking Oregon.
Let's go.
Stadium. The Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes, the number 2 Buckeyes against the number 3 Ducks.
Let's go.
What a matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we feeling about this game, boys.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's a measuring stick game for the Buckeyes. You're going up against a very good Oregon defense, but also an Oregon offense that just hasn't quite gelled yet.
No,
I mean they're getting there. They are getting there, but this is an Oregon offense that can be shut down. You know, Dylan Gabriel hasn't been quite as advertised for the Ducks so far this season. He's turned the ball over a bunch, and this is a much more aggressive Ohio State defense this year. They stop the run very well, and they seem to make. Even the times they've made plays when they've had to. So and they have held opponents. As Ohio State defense. What was it? They've held opponents to low point totals through the first 4 games. I'm so excited.
What happened there?
Nailed it.
It's like Wilford Brimley just had a diabetes attack.
Yeah,
what just
had a stroke.
happened?
So I'm expecting fireworks in this game. I mean, obviously it's Oregon, it's an elite team. They're going to put up points against this Ohio State defense, but it's the first. It's gut check time. It's the first measuring stick game, and I think Ohio State still wins, but I think it's going to be somewhere in the like 35-24 type range, because I think Will Howard, expect a couple more turnovers from Will Howard this game because again, Oregon is a great defense, and I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on the Buckeyes as well, because it's going to be the first test for this offensive line that wasn't so good last year but has done pretty good this year. So yeah, 35-24, give me the Buckeyes.
Hey, listen, Oregon comes into this game. Jordan James is their running back, averaging 6.5 yards a carry. Right, like this dude has been great. no, Dylan Gabriel's not been great, but we're still talking about a guy that 11 touchdowns, 3 picks, 1,500 yards on the season already. The challenge is there for the Buckeyes. I love the Chip Kelly storyline.
Yeah.
Because he is just going to be just geared up to go into this game. Ohio State is a heavy betting favorite in this game, a heavy betting favorite. And to be honest with you, I think this game could start really close because I think the crowd of Autzen Stadium, the crowd of Oregon is going to just, it's going to be unlike anything this version of the Buckeyes team has seen so far.
Right.
Yep.
But I think once
Stadium pulse.
I think once they get their bearings, I think Ohio State is significantly better than this Oregon football team. I think they are just head and shoulders. I think even if Ohio State doesn't play their best game of football, they still go into Oregon and win. I think that's how much better they are.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win by like 17 points.
Yeah, I feel like and
like 37-20 or something like that.
It feels like the Buckeyes have done that in the first couple of the first games as well. You talked about like getting their bearings. It feels like the first half in a couple of these Buckeye games, it felt like they've had.
Well, the Iowa game.
Yeah, the Iowa game, even the Michigan State game. They didn't pull away until later on. So maybe if they can start out strong, I think they could dominate the game if they start out strong, if they get out to a fast start. But yeah, 37-20, 35-24. I think that seems about right for this type of game.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I like Chad's prediction. I'm going to go with that. 34. Was it 20?
35-24.
It's going to be an amazing night of football, and Ohio State's schedule just gets really fun from here.
Yeah,
especially
sure does.
if they're winning.
Yeah.
Next week, it's back at home, but it's against Nebraska. And I know people are not super high on Nebraska anymore. They're not ranked anymore, which I think is kind of weird because
they're feisty.
They're still 5-1 on the year. Like, they're not terrible.
They are. They're feisty.
So you got Nebraska to come to Columbus, and then in 2 weeks you got Ohio State and Penn State, which, again, I fully expect Ohio State to beat the shit out of Penn State, but it's still a top 5 team, that Penn State team. And then you got Purdue and Northwestern. Those should be easy games. And then Indiana, we'll see where they're at by the time we get to that part of the schedule, and Michigan to end the year. We're in the fun part of the Ohio State schedule. Yeah. Here it comes. We're going to find out if this team is not just a playoff team, but a real college football championship contender. And I got to tell you, it's them in Texas that have looked like the contenders so far here.
Right. Yep.
So we'll see what they do in Oregon. All right. So college football talk done. The last thing I want to hit on real quick, boys, before we get out of here, and Chad, I know you had a little thing you wanted to hit on here. But boys, we got hockey that starts next week.
Let's go.
Yeah, we do.
It's already started over in Europe.
But the Columbus Blue Jackets, our jackets, our beloved jackets.
That's right.
October 15th, 1 week from tonight, is game 1 for the Jackets. So, boys, and Chad, you said you wanted to talk about it real quick. And actually, it starts before that.
I was going to say it starts Thursday. The first game for them is Thursday.
I think they played the last preseason tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I was thinking of their home opener. Their first game is actually in 2 days.
Right.
So, Chad, you said you wanted to hit on it a bit. Go for it, buddy.
Well, it's nothing like, I mean, it's major. It's major, but it's like these guys can't catch a break, man. Like Boone Jenner and Dmitry Voronkov, 2 guys that they were going to rely on heavily this year. It's now being reported that they think they'll be out till springtime.
They're out for the year.
Yeah, pretty much till March. I mean, they're not, obviously we're not going to find out that information until, the specificity of the injuries until way later on, because I know Don Waddell has come out and they've said they're not going to give away that information, but man, 2 guys they were going to need to rely on heavily. are gone, are just gone. But you still have a lot of talent on this team in Chinikov, Marchenko. They're going to be missing their third line mate on that Russian line. But yeah, man, it's just a shame that those injuries had to happen so early. But I do like the veteran pickups that they made in Kevin LeBlanc and Zach Aston Reese. And yes, they haven't had, they're not. It's not over the moon sign. It's not like premier all-star signings, but it's two guys that are good veteran presences on this team. They've produced in this league. They know how to produce in the league. They're not going to be 70, 80 point guys for you, but they could certainly give you 40 or 50 along with the leadership in the locker room and to carry along maybe that second or third line. So yeah, it does give you good experience on veteran forward experience. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully Elvis and the defense hold up. Hopefully they have a better year. Zach, stay healthy. Elvis, I love the little tribute to Johnny you put on your mask. But it's time to put up or shut up, man. It's time to put up or shut up. Did you guys see that? His mask?
No.
Yet, no.
Yeah, he put his little tribute to Johnny. I guess Johnny for his pregame meals would always eat just plain pasta, and he put a bowl of pasta with like a fork on just a little tiny thing on his mask of a bowl of pasta with like the noodles coming up around the fork, just as a little tribute. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, listen, man. They are the expectations for what the Blue Jackets put on the ice couldn't be lower.
Yeah, for sure.
And for so many good reasons, right? Like you obviously go through what they went through. You hate to, it's still so hard to talk about, but from an on the ice perspective, just strictly an on the ice perspective, I don't know, think of your favorite team and you just removed its best player. Like, and I know it's about so much more than that, but on the ice, that's what happened. You just took your favorite team in any sport. We've talked about the Guardians a lot tonight. Remove Jose Ramirez like he just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, think about all those years with LeBron in Cleveland. Now LeBron is gone. He doesn't exist. How do you survive it? And then on top of that, just the worst injury. I mean, like these guys just it's like the damn Browns, to be honest with you, in Columbus.
Yeah.
The injury bug hits them every year. There's never a year the injury bug skips over Columbus.
Nope.
Yeah.
To have Boone Jenner out for basically the season already.
Right.
And Voronkov off for basically the season already. Like,
right. Especially Voronkov with how much potential he showed last year.
Yeah, the injury bug hits. So the expectations couldn't be lower. And to be honest with you, you'll never get a bigger pass than you get this year. At the same time, sometimes, not always, but sometimes that situation creates something special.
Yeah.
Sometimes that situation of nobody expects anything out of us. Everybody thinks we're just going to be a pretty much last place team, creates something exciting and special, and it unifies a group of guys. And what the Blue Jackets have in front of them is an opportunity to showcase some of their younger guys who are going to get playing time because they have to.
Yeah.
But an opportunity for them to all gel together as a team. And so I'm not real quick to write them off to start the year. I will understand if they have just the worst year.
Yeah,
I will completely understand it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm not quick to write them off because I really like their coach.
Yeah.
I really like the message that he brings. I really like their general manager and the message that he brings. And I really like the group of guys that they have out there. And you know what? It's roll time. It's go time. It's you take what's happened in this offseason and you put it close to your heart and you go play.
Yeah. No, I think they're going to play inspired.
I think they're going to do that. I think the Jackets are going to be a feisty ass team this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I said earlier, I think, a couple weeks ago, if they can be the Ottawa Senators this year, I would love it. They're not many wins, but just real, but hard to beat. If I can get that, that's going to show me that they're going to go in, that they're going in the right direction. Right? They can be feisty, and I totally 100% agree with you that they're going to be playing inspired this year. Whether they win or lose, they're going to be playing inspired. They're going to play hard. They're going to play with structure, and that's the most successful Blue Jackets teams in the history of the franchise have come under structure and discipline. So we'll see. We'll see. We're
going to find out. All right. Listen, NHL hockey is coming, and we will dive way more into that as the season goes along, which starts. Did it start? Is it tonight?
It did start a couple days ago in Europe. The Devils played in Europe.
Yeah, fuck Europe. That game.
All right.
Well, we got an expansion team. We got Utah happening. We got a lot of exciting stuff in the NHL, so we'll get to it. Obviously, we got basketball coming up soon too. So we're just getting into that kind of second best time of the year, where football's happening, where hockey and basketball are happening, and MLB playoffs. Like, when it comes to best times of the year in sports, it's now. And then it's that time in the spring where it's like basketball and hockey playoffs, baseball is just starting, the Super Bowl, like, just we're right in one of the best times of the year, and we'll stick with that all the way throughout. But all right, boys, let's wrap this episode up, and let's go into our cheers of the week, opposite of the asshole of the week, where we just want to call somebody out for being really cool, for being great. And so who wants to lead it off? Joe, why don't you lead us off with our cheer of the week?
Yeah. When I think of cool and really great, I think of Stephen Kwan and his freaking catch.
Yeah.
From Monday's game.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember a catch from anyone on the Guardians that has covered that much ground that fast. I mean, when it's hit, it's like that's a gapper, that's a double. Like, he can try to make a play for it, but he's going to be about 10 feet short of that.
Right. And
the dude just shot out of a cannon. I mean, he's a Gold Glover for a reason. I hope he gets again this year. Shout out to Kwan, because like that made that game so fun, and that was a really good game. Obviously, it sucks in the ninth inning we lost that, but like, dude, that was great.
Amazing. And on top of that, Sean says it in the comments.
Yeah.
Also, cheers to Big Christmas. That throw from second
was
crazy.
From the right field corner to second was unbelievable.
Yeah. Turned around like he didn't even aim. He just turned around and threw.
No, he didn't see it.
The strike.
He just knew the strike.
Chad, what about you? Who's your cheer this week?
Well, I've got two cheers. First is going to go to the Guardians and Cavs. Just, thank you for being you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being you since 1999. Thank you for being you. Yep. Second goes to Boise State running back Ashton Genty. First, the best running back in college football. Yeah. And second off, for basically, and this just tugged at my old school like grinder heartstrings, that like just blue collar hard work. When he was asked about like going to a bigger school for more money, and he says money's cool and all, but legacy lasts forever. Legacy is what you'll be remembered by. And I said, yeah, God, I'm just a huge fan of you, which in translation means the money and the sex I'm getting is great here, so I'm just not going to leave. So yeah, but kudos to you, dude, for honestly, but seriously, kudos to you for having that type of work ethic and that type of mentality, man, because it's few and far between these days.
You grind your heartstrings.
Grind it. Just grind your heartstrings.
I don't know if that means what you think it means. Anyways.
No, I know what you're talking. No. Okay. It is exactly what you think I thought it meant.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I came in all ready to talk about that game yesterday, and Max Struth and George Niang in the crowd. I don't know if you guys saw the video. the video reactions that they were having. I just love when the athletes from this town support the other teams in this town. I think it's great. Max Struess and George Niang were at the game, the Guardians game. They went ballistic with that big Christmas throw from right field to second base. I was about to give them all the cheers, but I got to tell you, one of the great comments we've ever received in the history of the show just came through, and I'm giving it my cheers of the week. Because Alfredo Wigglesworth says, Chad, what's up, man? I told you I'd tune in today. Sorry I'm late. You had my legs shaking from the full body massage you gave me Friday. You were definitely worth the $50, my glazed honey bun. Can't wait to feel your strong hands all over every inch of my body again later this week.
What the hell?
From Facebook too.
Jesus Christ.
So Chad, apparently you made an impact on Alfredo Wigglesworth.
Well, listen, you're welcome, Alfredo. Okay. You're welcome.
Oh, I love it. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Episode 233 in the books of the Garage Beers podcast, and we had a great time. Last order of business to just give away our thank yous. First of all, thank you to the OBR for hosting us. The Orange and Brown Report is the best place for Browns coverage and for Garage Beers every week. So make sure you are tuned in to subscribe to the OBR on YouTube and Twitch. And then make sure you go to theobr.com and make sure you hit subscribe there as well. Next thank you goes out to our guest tonight, Jack Corrigan, the radio voice of the Colorado Rockies, but we know him as the former TV voice of the Cleveland Indians for almost 2 decades. Jack Corrigan, really a legend, and what great stories he shared. Jim Tomey ordering 200 burgers in a McDonald's parking lot at midnight, like just great stuff from Jack Corrigan. So big shout out to him for coming on with us. And our last shout out goes out to all of you, whether you joined us live here tonight, and there were a lot of you, or whether you are joining us later on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or Twitch or whatever. We appreciate you. We love you. And we thank you so much for joining us. That's going to do it for episode 233 of the Garage Beers podcast. For Chad over on the east side of Cleveland at Garage Beers Chad. For Joey in Nashville, Tennessee at Garage Beers Joe. Go follow the show at The Garage Beers on all the socials. I am Michael Keefe. It has been a pleasure. We'll see you next week. Until then, cheers, everybody.